The Absolute is the only true substance, because apart from this self, there is no other object. Once this spiritual principle is fully realized, nothing else remains. But how to realize this? Let's find out. Adi Shankaracharya explains this as follows. This entire world, which appears to be of various types due to ignorance, is free from the defects of all emotions, and is the Supreme itself. Even though it is made of clay, the pot is not separate from it, because due to being made of clay from all sides, the form of the pot is not separate from the clay. Hence where is the existence of the falsely imagined nominal pot in the clay? No one can show the form of a pot other than clay. That's why the pot is only an illusion. In reality, truth is only clay. If the universe were true, then it should have been experienced even during deep sleep. But at that time, it does not seem like anything. Just like in a dream, one experiences the world. Therefore it is as false and false as a dream. Formulation of the Absolute. The Absolute is true, unique, dense, pure, peaceful, without start and end, inert and always in the form of bliss. The Absolute is free from all worldly differences. It is eternal, happiness-like, artless, and without any evidence, and it is some formless, unexpressed, anonymous and inexhaustible light, which is getting illuminated by itself. Wise person, know that the ultimate, as devoid of this trinity of knower, knowledge and known, as infinite, choiceless, only and as undivided consciousness. Just as the country is the title of a king and the shield of a soldier. In the absence of these two titles, there is neither a king nor a warrior. Similarly, when the Supreme and the soul or being are completely known, then neither God nor the living soul remains. Because this world is imaginary, it is not real like the snake seen in the rope and the various things seen in dreams. After negating the seen with such powerful tactics, the one feeling of living beings and God, which is left behind, is worth knowing. Just as the clay is clay in every way, similarly, this world, which is born from the Absolute, is just an embodiment of the Absolute. Because there is nothing beyond the self, and that is the truth and the soul itself. Therefore you are the calm, pure and unique Supreme Being. Just as the place, time, subject and knower, imagined in a dream due to sleep disorders, are all false, similarly in the waking state also this world, being the work of one's ignorance, is false. Thus, because of this body, senses, life and ego are all unreal. Hence you are the same Absolute, who is calm, pure and unique. That which is beyond nature and beyond speech, which can be known with the eyes of pure knowledge, and which is an eternal thing with pure consciousness, you are the same Absolute. Feel this in your heart. You are the Absolute, who is meditated upon in the heart by the saints, who cannot be grasped by the senses, is inaccessible to the intellect, and is praiseworthy and glorious. Think in such a mind. You are the Absolute, who is free from the disorders of birth, growth, change, disease and destruction of the body, and is indestructible, and who is the cause of creation, maintenance and destruction of the world. Feel this in your mind. Think in your mind that you are the Absolute, who is motionless like a waveless body of water, and is eternally free and without divisions, which, despite being one, is the cause of many and the cause of negation of other causes. But you are the Absolute, which is separate from the causality itself. Think like this in your mind. Consider this aforesaid topic in your own mind, using the methods known to your mind. This will make you understand the truth free from doubts and contradictions. Renouncing lust. Even after having the knowledge of the self, that strong eternal desire should be removed with inner vision by being situated in the form of the self and making efforts. Because the sages have called the weakening of lust in this world as salvation. This is the practice of the ego, or maternal feeling of the soul in non-soulful things like the body and senses. Wise person or sense should be freed from egoism. Leave aside the lust of people, lust of the flesh and lust of the scriptures, and renounce the worldly practices in the soul. Because of these three, the living being does not have accurate knowledge. For a man who wishes to be free from the prison of the world, he describes this strong lust as an iron shackle lying on his feet. Only the one who gets rid of this attains salvation. As the mind turns inward, it gives up external desires. The time when one is completely free from desires, at that time the soul begins to experience no restrictions. Disillusioned. By stopping the mental tendencies and remaining constant in the self, the mind gets destroyed, and his desires also get destroyed. Hence put away your illusions or lust. Having decided that only destiny nourishes the body, be patient with a steadfast mind and leave your lust diligently. I am not a living being. I am the Supreme Being, thus negating the feeling of being alive in yourself. Give up the practice of being alive acquired through the intensity of lust. Until the ego, the I, that is happening in this body, is completely controlled, carefully remove your lust with the right mind. As long as life and the world seems real, just like a dream, continue to renounce this practice in your soul. Ego slander. There are many other restrictions as a reason for a being to attain this worldly bondage, but the root of all of them is the first disorder, ego. Ego means, the mean of I-ego means, to see the world as other than you, and you see the world as duality. As long as the soul is related to this evil ego, there should not be even the slightest hope of such a wonderful thing as liberation. When the feeling of this is me is being created in this body itself due to the imagination of the mind, which is extremely deluded by ignorance, is completely destroyed, then the feeling of selfhood in the Absolute becomes uninterrupted. As long as there is even a little trace of poison in the body, how will he allow it to remain healthy? Similarly, even the slightest trace of ego is a huge hindrance in the path of your liberation. By exhausting the ego and destroying the various types of options arising from it, by becoming aware of the soul, one attains the realization that I am this soul. Quickly abandon this distorted, self-reflecting ego that hides your true nature. It is only by ego that you have attained this worldly bondage, full of various types of sorrows like birth, death, old age. Then by removing the tendencies of egoism, doorship, indulgence, by attaining the supreme principle, become free from attachment and become completely situated in the Absolute by experiencing soul pleasure, and become choiceless and silent. Even if this strong ego is destroyed from its roots, if it comes in contact with the mind, even for a moment, it appears again and creates hundreds of troubles. Like a cloud combined with air during the rainy season. The man who is situated in his bodily intellect is the one who has desires. How can that unique soul, who has no connection with the body, be successful, therefore? Being engaged in thinking about things due to attachment to discrimination is the main reason for bondage to the world. With the increase of work, its seed is also seen to grow, and with the destruction of work, the seed also gets destroyed. Therefore the work itself should be destroyed. With increase of lust, work increases, and with increase of work, lust increases. In this way man is not freed from his bondage to the world at all. Negligent blasphemy. For a thoughtful person, there is no greater disaster than being careless in the search for oneself, because this leads to attachment, and attachment leads to ego. Ego leads to bondage, and bondage leads to distress. Just as a ball that falls carelessly on the stairs goes down, falling from one rung to the other, similarly, if the mind moves away from the Absolute and turns outward even a little, then it keeps falling down. The mind engaged in the objects contemplates their qualities. Then by continuous contemplation, their desires are awakened, and through desires the man becomes inclined towards the objects. Establishment formulation. Just as iron, when combined with fire, takes different forms, like a spade, in the same way, When combined with the soul, intelligence gets illuminated in different types of subjects. This duality is the work of that intellect, hence it is false. Because at the time of illusion, dream and desire, its apparent falsehood is clearly seen. Therefore, all the disorders or subjects of nature, from the ego to the body, are unreal because they change from moment to moment. The soul never changes, it always remains the same. In this way, a learned man, after dividing the true and false, determining the essence with his knowledge, and knowing the soul in the form of unbroken consciousness, becomes free from the unreal objects, and becomes peaceful himself. Attaining the Absolute. When the node of the heart in the form of ignorance is completely destroyed through the Absolute, the non-duality of the self is realized. When the mind gets matured by continuous practice day and night and becomes absorbed in the Absolute, then the mind develops into a position which gives the experience of the unique essence of the Absolute. So then the mind automatically stays in the Absolute. This makes the lust destroyed, and with the destruction of the lusts, all the actions are also destroyed, and then without any effort, the energy of the continuous form starts flowing everywhere inside and out. Restraining words, not accumulating wealth, giving up hope for worldly things, renouncing desires, and always living in solitude. All these are the first gates of salvation. Living in solitude is the cause of suppression of the senses. Suppression of the senses is the cause of control of the mind, and control of the mind leads to the destruction of lust, and with the destruction of lust, you experience the unshakable experience of the Absolute. I hope you will actually get the meaning of living in solitude here. Body, life, senses, mind and intellect, whichever of these qualities your mental state is in harmony with, you attain that same feeling. When your conscience gets rid of all these titles, then the Absolute clearly appears to you, due to which the flood of divine experiences starts coming in your mind.